Hello everyone, ready to begin? Today we're going to talk about an aspect of geography called cultural geography. I'd like to discuss the ways that the geographical features of the earth affect the spread of cultures. But first, what is cultural geography? It's the study of the way that the physical environment of the earth interacts with the people and cultures of the earth. Let me explain more so it's clear. Cultural geography studies the location of cultures. A cultural geographer sees differences in cultures and wants to know what effect the geography of the culture had in the spread, or lack of spread, of cultural elements, like beliefs and customs. Now, this should give you a pretty good picture of the focus and interest of cultural geography. So let's turn now and look more carefully at this idea of culture and how cultures are affected by the geography of the earth. Some experts say that there are right now 15,000 different cultures in the world. Now, by culture, I mean groups of people who share similar ways of going about life. They have a common set of learned beliefs, values, and behaviors. Culture regions differ greatly in size. Some are very large, like the Islamic culture region that makes up millions of square miles of North Africa, the Middle East, and Southwest Asia. Some are very small, like Spanish Harlem, which encompasses about 2 square miles of Manhattan in New York City. So a cultural geographer wants to know why. Why are there so many cultures on Earth today? If we all started out more or less the same way, how did we end up with 15,000 different cultures? So let's look at this idea, at how geographical features affect the spread of culture. Today, I'll discuss barrier effects. This is the term used to describe things that stop cultures from spreading. Physical barriers are natural elements that prevent cultures from spreading. These physical barriers isolate people. They isolate them by somehow preventing or limiting cultures from changing. Isolation is one general reason why we have so many cultures. Let's look at how this works. When people can easily communicate, they exchange information and ideas. The more they share, the more similar, the more alike they tend to become, because ideas, beliefs, and values go back and forth between the cultures. Geographic isolation makes communication difficult, and this causes differences between cultures. We'll discuss 5 classic examples of physical barriers. The first is oceans. Oceans were barriers for centuries. People living on islands surrounded by ocean were usually prevented from or unable to exchange things with other cultures. So until shipbuilding and navigation, oceans were a powerful barrier. This is even true today. Some islands in the Pacific Ocean are home to people who have little contact with the outside world. Let's move on. Forests are another example. In the past, forests were much larger than today. In fact, nearly all of what is now the western United States, for example, was continuous forest. And this was the same in large parts of Africa, Asia, Central and South America. How did this affect culture? Well, once a group of people settled in the forest, they became separate from other groups. Can you imagine this? The forest was so dense that they couldn't easily go through it. Forest societies were isolated because it was so difficult to travel. Okay, Our third example of a physical barrier is mountains. In areas that are extremely mountainous, we see that communication between cultures is also inhibited. Let me give you an example of this. The island of New Guinea. You heard of it? It's an island near Indonesia and Australia in the South Pacific Ocean. Now, on this small island, the total population is 7 million, there are an estimated 700 languages spoken. What an amazing fact. It makes no sense that so many languages exist in such a small space until you look at the geography. Let me explain. New Guinea is extremely mountainous and has many deep valleys. It also has dense tropical forests in the lowlands. These extreme geographical features resulted in hundreds of relatively isolated areas of people. And these groups have developed their own languages. Okay, now the last two types of barriers are deserts and tundra. You can easily see why deserts have also tended to isolate people and inhibit the spread of culture. I won't go into that one. But tundra you might not be familiar with. Tundra refers to areas like you find in northernmost North America and Europe. It's an area at the very high latitude at the top of the earth. The environment is very cold, sub-freezing, and treeless. Native peoples adapted to this harsh environment, but the harshness of the climate made it difficult to access. So tundra also is a physical barrier. Okay, those are the 5 barrier effects. The bottom line is physical barriers have isolated peoples and culture. It's hard to imagine today because of amazing advances in travel and communication, but these barriers were a significant influence in the development of the cultures of the world. Okay, see you next time.